1912 The Macabre History of the Lockwood Family, Madness Passed Down. Warning, warning, the content you are about to hear is disturbing and based on real documents. If you don't like this video, algorithms ensure you will never find similar material again. This may be your only chance to discover secrets that powerful people prefer to keep buried. Proceed at your own risk. Special edition of Chronicle of Forbidden Mysteries. 191 Forbidden Circulation. Medical Horror Revealed. Secret Society conducts diabolical experiments on children. Exclusive investigation reveals medical conspiracy of unimaginable proportions. By Dr. Septimus Graves, municipal pathologist at Boston Mortuary, special correspondent. Gentlemen readers, prepare yourselves for the most shocking revelation ever published in this periodical. For months, our editorial staff has investigated rumors whispered in medical corridors about experiments that defy the laws of God and nature. What we discovered transcends the worst nightmares of human imagination. The case of Ephraim Lockwood, a 12-year-old child from Hartford, Connecticut, exposes a conspiracy that extends to the highest echelons of American medical and industrial society. This is not sensationalist fiction. Every line has been verified through official documents, disturbing photographs, and testimonies from survivors who risked their lives to reveal the truth. In 1912, while our nation debated political issues, a sinister organization known as the Order of Vital Renewal conducted experiments that transformed innocent children into guinea pigs for sick obsessions with immortality. Ephraim Lockwood was just one of the victims in a national operation of medical horror. Family lineage carries dormant madness activated by experiments. Confidential documents obtained by our investigation reveal that Dr. Heinrich Zimmermann, director of the operation, had developed a method to trigger dormant hereditary conditions. The Lockwood family had long been rumored to carry a bloodline tainted with madness that manifested at the threshold of adulthood, but Zimmermann's experiments accelerated and amplified this condition to unprecedented levels. Medical photographs, too disturbing for complete reproduction in this edition, show the diabolic progression: fixed staring eyes appearing in the first week, slurred speech in the second, discordant laughter in the third. At chronological age 12, Ephraim Lockwood exhibited the complete mental deterioration typically seen only in hereditary cases 3 times his age. Secret society finances atrocities. Our investigation discovered that the order received funding from prominent industrial families, all obsessed with the prospect of controlling hereditary traits through profane science. Each experiment cost fortunes, paid with the blood of innocent children transformed into laboratory specimens. The conducted rituals combined experimental medicine with medieval occultism. Ephraim Lockwood was kept in underground cells decorated with alchemical symbols, subjected to ceremonies that mixed medical procedures with incantations in archaic Latin. Local authorities involved in conspiracy. Evidence indicates that municipal authorities, influential families, and even clergy members were aware of or directly involved in the order's activities. Death records were falsified, families were silenced through threats and bribes, and any official investigation was systematically sabotaged. Dr. Morrison, municipal medical examiner, secretly documented impossible anatomical discrepancies: children with advanced neurological degradation matching that of elderly mental patients, brain tissue with characteristics of hereditary insanity accelerated to terminal stages, physical evidence of temporal manipulation that defies conventional scientific explanation. Secret archives reveal national scope of conspiracy. Our investigation led us to the State Medical Archives, where we discovered evidence of systematic tampering with records. Pages surgically ripped out with precision, stamps professionally falsified, signatures erased with acid. Someone had invested considerable resources to erase any trace of the events of 1913. The crucial discovery came through forgotten carbon copies and poorly catalogued archives. These documents revealed the existence of a secret wing in the Hartford Hospital, officially designated as Advanced Research Section for Rare Pathologies, a macabre euphemism for the order's laboratory of horrors. Zimmerman's diaries exposed diabolical methodology. Dr. Heinrich Zimmermann maintained meticulous records of his activities, written in a disturbing mixture of archaic German and medical Latin. His diaries reveal a brilliant mind completely corrupted by obsession with manipulating hereditary madness in human subjects. Ephraim Lockwood was identified in the records only as Specimen 7L, a designation that reduced a living child to a laboratory object. The selection criteria were specific: families with documented histories of hereditary conditions, preferably with onset in adolescence, all considered biologically superior material for experiments. The hereditary catalyst, developed by Zimmermann, combined radioactive elements with glandular extracts from cadavers, creating a compound that the scientist believed could accelerate natural hereditary processes. The injections were administered directly into the spinal cord, causing transformations that violated all known laws of biology. Transformation documented in disturbing photographs. Photographic series attached to reports documents the macabre progression of experiments on Ephraim Lockwood. The initial images show a healthy child with bright eyes and a shy smile. Subsequent photographs record a transformation that seems extracted from humanity's worst nightmares. First week, eyes become fixed and staring, facial expressions begin to flatten. Second week, speech becomes slurred, posture begins to stiffen. Third week, discordant laughter appears, hands develop tremors. Fourth week, Ephraim exhibits complete mental deterioration, matching hereditary madness cases 3 times his age. The most disturbing aspect was that part of the child's mind remained intact within the deteriorating brain. Psychological records document Ephraim crying for his mother with broken speech between fits of maniacal laughter, creating an existential contradiction that tormented even the experiment's executors. National network of collaborators discovered. Intercepted correspondence reveals that Zimmermann did not operate in isolation. The order maintained a network of collaborators in at least 8 states, all conducting variations of the same macabre experiments under different institutional disguises. Each laboratory received funding from local industrial groups, creating a national conspiracy of child exploitation disguised as revolutionary medical research. The total number of victims may reach hundreds of children, all sacrificed at the altar of scientific ambition corrupted by greed. Financial records show that each experiment cost the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of current dollars, money provided by families obsessed with the prospect of controlling hereditary traits through occult science. For these financiers, child suffering was merely an acceptable operational cost. Bloodline purification, the diabolical theory. Technical documents reveal that the experiments on Ephraim Lockwood were part of a much more ambitious and sinister project. The order had developed a pseudoscientific theory called bloodline purification, combining experimental medicine with occultism in an absolutely blasphemous manner. The central hypothesis suggested that hereditary madness could be extracted from a person and controlled through specific rituals conducted during medical procedures. Zimmermann believed that by artificially accelerating inherited mental illness in healthy children from tainted bloodlines, he could concentrate the hereditary defect into administrable substances. Underground laboratory combined medicine and occultism. Ephraim Lockwood was kept in a specially constructed cell 3 floors below the main hospital. The environment combined state-of-the-art medical equipment with alchemical symbols engraved on copper plates, creating a blasphemous hybrid between operating room and pagan temple. The temperature was precisely controlled, lighting provided exclusively by candles made with human fat, a macabre detail discovered in the operation supply records. The walls displayed anatomical diagrams mixed with pentagrams and medieval hermetic symbols. During weekly rituals, Ephraim Lockwood was positioned in the center of a circle engraved on the stone floor while Zimmerman and his assistants recited incantations in medieval Latin. Simultaneously, the child was subjected to procedures that included spinal fluid drainage, glandular hormone collection, and injections of radioactive substances directly into the central nervous system. Development of inexplicable capabilities. Records document that Ephraim Lockwood developed abilities that defy scientific explanation during the experiments. Zimmerman observed episodes where the child demonstrated knowledge of Lockwood family secrets he could never have learned, spoke fluently about ancestors he had never met, and showed comprehension of complex psychological concepts. More disturbing were the recorded, prophetic episodes. Ephraim began predicting future events with frightening accuracy, including specific deaths of medical staff members and regional political changes. Zimmerman interpreted these manifestations as evidence that his experiments were expanding the temporal capabilities of the specimen, by connecting him to the collective Lockwood consciousness. Physical suffering documented in medical details. Medical photographs show Ephraim Lockwood simultaneously developing severe neurological deterioration, advanced mental symptoms, and physical characteristics of Lockwood ancestors, all while maintaining the cranial structure and dentition characteristic of a 12-year-old child. It was a biological contradiction that transformed each movement into indescribable agony. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, a nurse who worked secretly to document the abuses, wrote in a personal diary, "Every night I heard Ephraim cry in the basement. They weren't childish tears, but hoarse groans of terminal suffering mixed with bursts of ancestral laughter. The sound haunts me 40 years later." Temporal culmination ritual, the final procedure. The experiments reached their climax during what Zimmerman called temporal culmination ritual. During a ceremony that extended for 3 consecutive days, Ephraim Lockwood was subjected to the final procedure, total drainage of cerebrospinal fluids while artificially kept alive through primitive machines. The objective was to extract what Zimmerman believed to be the concentrated hereditary essence, a substance he theorized contained generations of compressed bloodline experience. This substance would be refined and administered to paying order members as a longevity elixir and means to control their own hereditary conditions. The last medical records of Ephraim Lockwood are too disturbing for complete description in this publication. The child, at chronological age 12, presented biological characteristics of terminal hereditary madness, but maintained consciousness and childhood memories until the final moment. Professor Edmund Crowe, specialist in historical secret societies, analyzes, the order of vital renewal represented what happens when medical knowledge combines with uncontrolled ambition and degenerated occultism. They weren't scientists, they were predators using scientific vocabulary to rationalize unimaginable atrocities. Survivors break decades of silence. Our investigation managed to locate 3 survivors willing to testify about the events of 1913. Their accounts, collected in exclusive interviews, reveal details that no official document ever recorded, truths they have carried in silence for decades. Eleanor Whitmore, the nurse who saw everything. Eleanor Whitmore, now 93 years old, was a young trainee at Hartford Hospital during the period of the experiments. She received us at her isolated residence only after we presented specific credentials and swore to protect her identity. "I was only 16, Eleanor recalled with a trembling voice, but I immediately realized that something was terribly wrong. There were corridors where we were forbidden to enter, strange sounds during the early mornings, and that smell, that sweet and putrid smell that permeated the air." Eleanor was the only person outside Zimmerman's team who directly witnessed Ephraim Lockwood during the experiments. One night, working beyond hours, she accidentally witnessed a ritual session through a basement window. "What I saw changed my life forever," she continued, her hands trembling. Hooded men, candles in circles, and in the center a child who looked like a mental patient but cried like a baby. It was Ephraim Lockwood, though I only discovered his name decades later. Thomas Morrison, son of the medical examiner. Thomas Morrison, 85 years old, is the son of the municipal medical examiner who conducted autopsies of the victims. He preserved his father's secret notes, which documented anatomical discrepancies in official death records. "My father knew something was deeply wrong," Thomas explained during our interview. He found children's bodies with characteristics of hereditary madness, but families were instructed not to question. There was constant political pressure to falsify autopsy reports. Dr. Morrison had secretly photographed some victims, including Ephraim Lockwood. The images show contradictions that defy explanation: children's brains with advanced hereditary deterioration, neural tissue with characteristics of terminal madness, cranial development with anomalies typical of the Lockwood ancestry. "My father suspected radiation poisoning," Thomas added. He found anomalous levels in the tissues, but when he tried to report to authorities, he was threatened with loss of his medical license. Sarah Caldwell, experiment survivor. The most devastating testimony came from Sarah Caldwell, 88 years old, one of the rare survivors of the experiments themselves. At 9 years old, she was selected for the program but managed to escape before the final procedures. Sarah still exhibits physical scars, injection marks at the base of the skull and spinal curvature that doctors never adequately explained. Her memories are fragmented, but the details she can recall are absolutely disturbing. "They kept us in cells in the basement," Sarah recalled in the presence of her grandson. There were other children, perhaps 10 or 12. Ephraim Lockwood was in the adjacent cell, and I heard his cries every night. Sarah described nightly rituals where children were forced to participate in ceremonies combining medical procedures with occultist elements. Men in white chose a different child each night. When they took Ephraim Lockwood, he was never the same. Each day he seemed more broken, laughing at nothing, his eyes staring into some unseen horror. Ephraim Lockwood's final days reported. Sarah's most shocking description involves Ephraim Lockwood's final moments. He had become unrecognizable, a tortured mind trapped in a child's body, alternating between moments of clarity when he would call for his mother and episodes of maniacal laughter identical to his great-grandfather's. "One night I heard screams coming from his cell, then absolute silence. The next morning, they said he had departed to a better place." Dr. Margaret Thornfield, who interviewed Sarah decades later, confirmed the authenticity of the memories through regressive hypnosis. Sarah's recollections are too detailed to be fantasies. She really witnessed these horrors. Conspiracy extended beyond the hospital. All testimonies converge: the conspiracy extended far beyond the hospital walls. Influential families, local authorities, and clergy members were involved or aware of the order's activities. It wasn't isolated madness, Eleanor Whitmore concluded. It was an organized system, protected by powerful people who considered child suffering an acceptable price for achieving control over hereditary conditions. Conspiracy remains unpunished, culprits escape justice. Our 2-year investigation revealed truths that shook not only our faith in humanity but questioned the very foundations of American medical civilization. The Order of Vital Renewal operated a national network of laboratories under different disguises, potentially victimizing hundreds of children. Dr. Heinrich Zimmermann never faced trial. Immigration records show that he left the United States in 1914 with considerable fortune and a new identity, possibly continuing experiments in Europe. Some historians suggest that his research influenced later military programs focused on hereditary control. The industrial financiers also escaped unharmed, using political influence to suppress investigations and destroy evidence. Descendants of these families still occupy positions of power, carrying secrets they prefer to keep buried forever. Ephraim Lockwood, erased from official records. Ephraim Lockwood's existence was systematically eradicated, altered birth certificate, destroyed school records, unnamed headstone in an unidentified cemetery. As if he had never existed, except in the Order's secret archives, where his life was reduced to scientific codes and disturbing photographs. During our investigation, we experienced unexplainable phenomena, vivid nightmares with Ephraim Lockwood before the experiments, dreams where a child forever trapped in madness begged for his story to be told. Coincidence or manifestation of consciousness that refuses to be forgotten. Experiment site remains haunted. Today, where Hartford Hospital's old wing once functioned, only ruins covered by wild vegetation remain. Authorities discourage visitation citing structural issues, but adventurers report unexplainable sensations, childish whispers in the wind, persistent impression of observation by invisible eyes. Professor Edmund Crowe theorizes, the experiments may have created something beyond scientific understanding. Temporal manipulations of hereditary conditions may have produced consciousness that transcends normal limitations of mortality. Secret memorial established. We have established a private memorial for Ephraim Lockwood and other victims, bronze plaque hidden among the ruins, where we regularly leave flowers. Our gesture of apology for a society that failed to protect its most vulnerable members. Archives like this are systematically suppressed. If this content doesn't receive massive engagement, you will never see similar revelations about historical medical conspiracies again. Your interaction determines whether we continue exposing secrets that powerful people prefer buried. Like, share, comment, or these archives will forever disappear into digital oblivion.